Okay, so now, after having talked about pragmatics and the difference between Paul Grice and Frege, and having looked at the notion of non-natural meaning, we are in a position to understand Grice's account, that is his theory of non-natural meaning. So the question is non-natural meaning in terms of communicative intentions, that is, in terms of intentions on the part of the speaker to induce a certain belief in the hearer. So the speaker's meaning is determined by what the speaker would like the hearer to believe on the basis of what the speaker said, or as a result of what the speaker said. And Grice develops his account in 3 stages, and he uses examples to motivate these 3 stages. First of all, he wants to say, well, the first stage is that for a speaker to mean something non-naturally by a certain utterance, the speaker must have an intention. An intention to the effect that the hearer of the utterance forms a certain belief. The second stage adds reflexivity to the intention. What that means is that the speaker must intend for the hearer to pick up on the speaker's intention, must recognize the speaker's intention. The third stage then introduces an additional reflexive intention in the sense that the hearer of the utterance only forms the belief that the speaker wants him to form because the hearer picks up on the speaker's intention for the hearer to form that very belief. So those are the 3 stages, and let's go through them. So the initial proposal, that's not his final account. The initial proposal says that S non-natural means by a certain utterance X, that P, if and only if S utters X intending for the hearer to form the belief that P. So X here is an utterance. It need not be an utterance, it can also be a gesture, because also gestures can have non-natural meaning. So actions in general can have non-natural meaning. So X stands for an utterance or an action, and P stands for the content of the belief that the speaker would like the hearer to form. So this initial account, this initial proposal, is too simplistic, is too simple. And to show that, Paul Grice produces a counterexample, an example that shows that there's a problem with this simplistic account. This is the counterexample. I quote, "I might leave B's handkerchief with embroidered initials, the kind of old-fashioned handkerchief, near the scene of a murder in order to induce the detective to believe that B was the murderer." So if on the handkerchief it has B's embroidered initials, then I may do that to make the detective think B was the person who committed the murder. But, Grice continues, we should not want to say that the handkerchief, or that my leaving it there, meant non-naturally anything, or that I had non-naturally meant by leaving it there that B was the murderer. Clearly one must at least add that for X to have meant non-naturally anything, X, by the way, is the action of leaving the embroidered handkerchief at the scene, that for this action to mean non-naturally anything, not merely must it have been uttered or performed with the intention of inducing a certain belief, but also the utterer must have intended an audience to recognize the intention behind the utterance. End of quotation. So it's not enough that you, that is the speaker or agent, intends the audience, in this case the detective, to form a certain belief, but for non-natural meaning it is also important that you, the speaker or agent, intend the audience to pick up on your intention. And the detective finding the handkerchief at the murder scene may not pick up on the intention of the agent, because the detective may think that it was an accident that the handkerchief was left at the scene. So that's why Grice thinks leaving the handkerchief at the murder scene doesn't have non-natural meaning. So we have to add another layer to our simplistic account. So we get to the second stage, reflexive intention. What is needed is an intention on the part of the speaker that the hearer recognizes the speaker's intention to induce the belief in him, the hearer. So our next proposal then for non-natural meaning reads as follows. S non-naturally means by X that P, if and only if S utters X. And now we have two conditions. First of all, intending for the hearer to form the belief that P, that's an old hat, we had that already, but now comes the new bit. And second, S also intends that the hearer recognizes that that's what he, that is the speaker, intends to do. So this account takes account, or this account deals with the murder example. But he thinks, Paul Grice thinks, that this second account is still not good enough, and he gives a counterexample to the second account. The counterexample has to do with a biblical story, Salome. So this is what he writes, I quote, Herod intended to make Salome believe that John the Baptist was dead by presenting the head of John the Baptist on a silver platter, and no doubt also intended Salome to recognize that he intended her to believe that St. John the Baptist was dead. So we have both aspects. We have the speaker's intention for the audience to form a certain belief, and we have the speaker's intention for the audience to recognize the speaker's intention. Still, Grice says, yet I certainly do not think that we should say that we have here a case of non-natural meaning. So, by the way, if you're interested in the historical details of the story, you find them on this slide, and there's also a link to the Wikipedia page, so you can read up on the historical stuff. But now let's get back to the philosophy. Why is the Salome example a counterexample to our to the proposed definition of non-natural meaning? Well, it's a counterexample because we have distinguished between two things. We have distinguished between presenting someone, in this case Salome, with evidence, that P, with evidence that John the Baptist is dead, and telling someone, Salome, that John the Baptist is dead. Presenting evidence versus telling. Only telling has or carries non-natural meaning. Presenting evidence does not. Why not? Well, because telling requires the hearer to recognize the speaker's intention. The presentation of evidence does not require the speaker to pick up on the does not require the hearer to pick up on the speaker's intention. Because if you are presented with the head of someone on a platter, you know that this person is dead. You know that quite irrespective of what you think the presenters, the agents, the speaker's intentions are. So you don't actually have to recognize the speaker's intention in order to form the belief that John the Baptist is dead. So you can recognize the speaker's intention, but your belief that John the Baptist is dead is quite independent of your recognition of the speaker's intention. Yeah. Presenting a head on a platter is natural meaning for that person to be dead. It doesn't mean it non-naturally. Yeah. So, in order to fix this case, we add a third stage to our account. So it's not enough that the speaker has the intention that the hearer recognize the speaker's intention to induce the belief. What is furthermore needed is that there is a connection between the speaker's intention to induce a belief in the hearer and the speaker's intention that the hearer recognizes the first intention. In other words, the hearer is intended to have the belief by means of, or as a consequence of, he, that is the hearer, recognizing the speaker's intention. In other words, the hearer must form the belief that P because the hearer recognizes the speaker's intention. That's what is required. And in order to illustrate this, Paul Grice gives us yet another example. And this has to do with two scenes. We are invited to imagine two scenes. We are invited to imagine that a person A shows another person B a photograph of B's wife kissing another man. And then we are invited to contrast that case where A shows B a photograph with a case where A draws a picture of the same scene, that is, of a scene of B's wife kissing another man, and shows that picture, that drawing, to B. Now, it could be that in both cases, in the photograph case and in the drawing case, A's intention is the same. A wants to make B aware of the fact that his wife is having an affair. But, Grice says, only the second case, only the one with the drawing, has non-natural meaning. Why is that the case? Why does only the drawing have non-natural case, or the showing of the drawing has non-natural meaning, whereas the showing of the photograph does not? Well, the reason is that the photograph would have the effect on B, that is, would produce in B the belief that his wife is having an affair anyways, irrespective of B being aware, that is, B recognizing A's intention. If you see a photograph of your partner having, kissing another person, you get the message. You understand that your partner is having an affair, quite independent of you picking up on the intention of the photographer or the intention of the person who left the photography for you to see. The drawing is different. The drawing has non-natural meaning because for B to recognize A's intention is a necessary condition of the production of the intended effect on B. That is, without B recognizing what A wants B to believe, B may misinterpret the drawing. B may take the drawing to be simply a display of A's drawing skills. That is, B may not understand, unless B recognizes A's intention in showing the drawing, he may not understand that what this is supposed to mean, non-naturally, is that B's wife has an affair. So the drawing, in other words, can be misinterpreted, and is only interpreted correctly if or when the hearer picks up on, recognizes the speaker's intention the intention that the speaker has as to the belief that the hearer is supposed to form. So Grice's final account then has three intentions. There's first of all the intention that the hearer should come to form a certain belief, should come to have a certain belief. Second, there is the intention that the hearer should recognize the speaker's intention to the effect that the hearer should have a certain belief. And thirdly, the speaker must have the intention that it is by means of the recognition of the first intention that the hearer should come to believe that P. So three intentions that are nested into one another, and all those are important for the utterance or the action that the speaker performs to have non-natural meaning. So the final account of non-natural meaning that Grice proposes looks as follows. S, a speaker S, non-naturally means by an action or an utterance X that P, if and only if S utters X and, first of all, intends for the hearer to form the belief that P, intends that the hearer recognizes that that's what he intends to do, and thirdly, that S intends that the hearer forms the belief that P, at least partly because the hearer recognizes that that's what the speaker intends to do. Yeah. So, yet in other terms, for the speaker to have non-natural meaning when saying something, the speaker must intend the hearer to form a certain belief. The speaker must intend for the hearer to pick up on the speaker's intention for the hearer to have that belief, and the speaker must intend that the hearer forms the belief because the hearer has picked up on the speaker's intention for him to do so. So meaning, non-natural meaning that is analyzed by Grice in terms of a complex reflexive intention, that is intentions with respect to intentions, that is an intention to induce a belief in the hearer by means of a recognition of that very intention. That's what it means by intention to be reflexive, because one intention pertains to another intention. So you have an intention about an intention. That's what it means for an intention to be reflexive. And it's these reflexive intentions that Paul Grice thinks are needed for an utterance to have non-natural meaning.